Hey everyone, how are you doing? I hope you are good. Welcome to the video. So in today's video, we're going to be discussing the evolution of combat in the Saints Row series. I think it's going to be pretty interesting to look back on the earlier games and see how the combat slowly has evolved through the franchise and had all the improvements, downgrades, upgrades, and whatever comes with the new Saints Row titles. So let's get into it. So, as always, we start off with Saints Row 1, and as it seems to be a running theme in these videos where I talk about the old Saints Row games, Saints Row really laid the core foundation but didn't do anything mind-blowing. So here, as you can see, it's a very simple hip-fire mechanic that comes back in every Saints Row, but there is no aiming function, which I find quite weird. Combat's obviously very limited in this aspect. You can't aim down your sights with anything besides the sniper, and I think that's pretty weird. Also, explosives were not on the D-pad like they were in 3 and 4. They're actually on the top left of like the hotbar thingy. I don't know what to call it. The weapon wheel, is that what people call it? But on the weapon wheel, it's like the top left option. So it's very interesting to see how the newer games differ from that. But yeah, there was no aiming mechanic, so you kind of just walk towards them spamming the right trigger and hope the bullets would hit them, because the bullets weren't even always accurate, so you'd like spam a ton of ammo into someone and it might not even go exactly where you're aiming. But it does obviously set the core foundation, as we know, for the future Saints Row games, as this little like hip fire aiming mechanic is kind of the prominent feature that we use to shoot people in every Saints Row game. I'd argue most of the time you're using this hip fire mechanic in every single Saints Row game, opposed to aiming down sights. So let's continue with Saints Row 2. As normal with Saints Row 2, it built upon it and made it infinitely better. So now we have an aim down sight mechanic, which I would argue is one of the better in the series. You click the right stick in and you can aim down sight. And now that helps so much, especially in Saints Row 2, as the bullets seem to be a little more accurate. They go where they're aiming. And, you know, even though my gameplay is probably not the best, I'm pretty inaccurate most of the time. You can spam the weapons a lot better. It was a lot more down to, like, click speed. And it does just feel like the weapon's more accessible and everyone can use them the way they choose. Although, these are all well and good, but I do think that the biggest improvement doesn't come to the gunplay combat. It actually comes to the melee. In Saints Row 2, you get to customize your melee attacks, and I think it's the most advanced in the series, as I'll discuss with the later games, and how they kind of falter in this aspect. You have tons of different like methods to attack people melee-wise. There's tons of melee weapons. I mean, you can pick up items off the floor and attack people with them. There's lots of really cool aspects to it, and I think it's quite important. Also, I forgot to mention this in Saints Row 1, so I'm just going to bundle them together as it's practically the same. You can eat food to regenerate health in this game, which never comes back in the later games after this, but in Saints Row 1 and 2, they're there, and I think they're pretty good features overall. Again, following the trend, Saints Row 3 improves in some aspects, but also falters in others. So in this game, we have a new melee system, which I think is really subjective on whether you prefer it. I much prefer the old one, but I know some people do like the quick time events. I've never been a fan of quick time events, so I don't like it. But aiming down sight's drastically improved, arguably the best in the series. I think it's much better. You have much more control over where you're shooting, and I do think it's pretty improved. The weapon wheel's a bit different now. So now you have your explosive like grenade, flashbangs, these electric grenades, and the other one, sorry, I forgot which one it was. They're down at the bottom right on the D-pad, which means you have an extra weapon slot for your special weapon, whether it be a sniper or just like a crazy weapon, essentially. I do prefer this system. While I do miss food, I think that they could actually just put food down to one single option in the weapon wheel and have more options for grenades, as chances are you're just going to be using your grenades and explosives more than your healing with regen in this game. So if they'd have had like just one option for food, it'd have been kind of cool. They also, sadly, and this is where I think Saints Row 3 falters in the biggest regard, they removed pick-upable weapons, which completely ruins any form of immersion that Saints Row 2 had. Like, Saints Row 2 was great. You could pick up everything and anything and have a blast of it, whereas in Saints Row 3, that feature's gone. You can pick up nothing. It's very weird, and it's something I really hated they removed, but I do think Saints Row 3 improved on most combat aspects. It just removed a few beloved features, which, if it came back, would have made Saints Row 3 a much more loved game, in my opinion. Before we start with Space Row 4, I want to just talk about something real quick. So, Get Out of Hell is a game I really didn't want to include in this whole video concept, as I don't think it's too different to 4. So with the car video, I put a little segment at the very end just saying there was no point me really talking about it. It kind of sucks, because it's just 4 in hell. And that's kind of the same for combat. So the combat will be identical to this, essentially, just in a different game in hell. So there's not too much to talk about. Anyway, on to Space Row 4. So obviously we have superpowers, which is a huge difference. They've got the blast, telekinesis, the fire buff, the stomp. So those are 4 huge powers that you can use to attack and destroy your enemies in combat. But realistically, it's pretty identical to Saints Row 3, with gun combat at least. It's nearly identical. Obviously, the combat has changed a little, though, with melee. So with this, the best way you can do it is sprint at someone and click your right stick in, and you get these sort of like superhero moves that you can do. But overall, the combat is identical to Saints Row 3, really, just with the superpowers being the added feature, really. So there's not a great deal to talk about. Obviously, you have the laser weapons and stuff, which are really cool. But when it comes to melee combat, the best thing to do to experience the melee combat to be as fun as real, like, as fun as it can be, sorry, is to kind of sprint at them and then click like a trigger or something, and you do like this weird like super move on them. That's basically the only change to melee. Like, weapon combat's identical. The only real difference to like enemies as well would just be like shield combat, which is really just use a superpower on it and shoot them. So not too much to talk about here. It's basically the same as 3. Oh, back onto one of my new favourite games. I've been having a blast playing this game, by the way. I probably won't do a full-scale review, as I don't think there's much want for it, but man, this game is fucking fun. It's above some Saints Rows for me, with how much fun it is. The combat in this game is great, by the way. It definitely carries the game. I spoke about this in my Agents of Mayhem review, so if you want a bit more, like, in-depth talk about that, I have it there. But realistically, the combat's great. You have this weird jump mechanic, which allows you to shoot midair, opposed to Saints Row 4's where you just jump and then have to land to shoot. It's very nice, and it does make the game feel so much more fluid combat-wise. You also have your Mayhem ability and your just special ability. These are super helpful. I use these all the time. And obviously with different operators, you get tons of different stuff. I mean, I could make a video going through the operators alone. There's so many different options for what superpower type thing. I'm going to just call it a superpower because that makes the most sense. Superpower type thing you want to use. So, for example, you have teleportation. You have, like, these bombs and stuff. It's really cool. And I think it's definitely something that would deserve its own video if you guys wanted that. Also, you have Legion tech and Gremlin tech. Insane stuff. Tons of fun. I don't have any footage of it because I don't really use it that much personally. I use it more for like when I'm in shit and I need serious help. But it's great, and obviously with the combat being as good as it is in this game, it does make the game an absolute blast to play. So, like I said before, I think the Saints Rows is still on like sale, and this game's like $4. Get it, okay? 100% recommendation. But yeah, the combat's great in this game, and I do think it's one of the best in the whole Saints Row-esque franchise. It's insane. But yeah, that does about do it for me. I hope you enjoyed this evolution of the combat in Saints Row. I hope it gives you a bit of insight to how we went from the very basic foundation of Saints Row 1 to having a combat system where you're allowed to shoot midair, use all these special abilities. And I know Agents of Mayhem isn't a Saints Row, but it is, in a way. It was originally planned to be a Saints Row. They just removed the Saints Row name. So I counted as it in a way. And I think it makes me enjoy the game a bit more when I'm playing as like Pierce and all that. But if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe. Obviously, I'm trying to boost the channel as much as possible, and we are growing slowly but surely. We're very close to 2k subs, so if you want to be a part of the under 2k club, you better subscribe real quick. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all, and yeah.